Hey everybody, welcome to the latest episode of The Gray Area, going after that stink show in Los Angeles at SoFi. We'll talk about the Lions and the Rams, go over what we learned, talk about some numbers over narratives. I've got the age-old question that's only recognized in Michigan. What up, though? Got some questions about what's going on with this team, plus my own letter to Santa and an updated look at the enemies list. Cue the intro. Before I get started, remember to subscribe to the channel. Please hit the subscription and the notification bells. That's how we get the content to you freely. That's why it's all $0. And there's content coming out on the DLP pretty much every day at this point. So we're hard to escape. Please subscribe to the channel and save us chasing you around to do that. Want to start with what we learned. First thing we learned, the third quarter is alive and well. Might be the turdiest third quarter. That was terrible. God awful. Lions took the lead into halftime, came out, and they needed the offense to be airtight. Now, that's not a fair expectation. It was a big part of last year with all of the injuries on the defensive side, but that was what they needed to do, and they did the opposite. They went 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out. They put the defense in some really bad situations, and the defense imploded all at the same time. Bickety bam. The game was lost in the third quarter. The Rams had anything they wanted offensively, and the Lions could not get things going. They waited until the fourth quarter to try to find themselves, and by then it was too late. Dan Campbell even had a bit of a Freudian slip during the postgame where he said the game is 3 quarters, and then went, oh wait, no, it's 4. Well, not the way you played it against Los Angeles. That was a 3-quarter game, and the Lions took one of those quarters off, and that's no good. The third quarter was terrible, and that is where the game got lost. Part of the reason for that is because the other thing we learned is that the offensive identity is missing on this team. It just is. The offensive game plan and the identity of this team seems to change from week to week, and sometimes, as is the case with the Rams, within the game. The Lions were doing exactly what they needed to do in the first half with the run game going through David Montgomery mostly because Jahmyr Gibbs was not as effective. Montgomery's getting the tough yards. Only 6 carries, but 31 yards, making them respect that, giving you some positive momentum on those early downs and contributing to manageable third downs, which was how this game was going to have to go for the Lions. The Rams are really good up front. They have an excellent scoring defense, and the Lions did exactly what they needed to do through the first half. Then halftime happens, you come out with a lead, and the whole thing changes. And it's chuck and duck on early downs, and it's ending up in bad situations on third down. David Montgomery is nowhere to be found. He gets put into the witness protection program, and the offensive game plan turns to poo, and it doesn't make any sense. And it's been this way for weeks. It wasn't just this game. The offensive identity of this team goes topsy-turvy all the time, which is why you're getting this win-loss, 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 going all the way back to October 5th against the Bengals. The Lions rolled off 4 wins in a row coming out week 2, 3, 4, and 5, and then it's been win-loss, win-loss, win-loss ever since. A big part of that is because the offensive identity is missing. I know they had the change in play callers when Dan Campbell took it away from John Morton, and I know that the overall team stats have been solid, especially in the scoring department. Yards are good. All of those things look great. But how they get that done is not consistent from quarter to quarter and from week to week, and they need to figure out what that looks like. Part of the problem, item number 3, didn't learn this so much as had it reinforced. The O-line, the O-line, the O-line. It is about that offensive line. Tristan Colon isn't the answer to any of the questions. I don't care what your questions are about the offensive line. I've got plenty. He's not the answer. So let's move on from that. If it's not going to be him and Christian Mahogany isn't ready, the answer was Miles Frazier. That's it. The answer was Miles Frazier. Tristan Colon going out there and absolutely stinking the joint up was something to see. And the offensive line, obviously, the story is old. You got Graham Glasgow, and then you've got Taylor Decker playing through his shoulder injury. Penei Sewell getting his ankle wrapped every single week, I assume because the weight of trying to carry the offense on his back is probably making his legs give out. The offensive line's a mess. It's the number one priority for the offseason, but now you saw a brand new version of that once you get all the way down the depth chart at left guard to Tristan Colon. Let's not do that anymore. Prayers up for Mahogany. As of this recording, let's hope that he gets in there for the rest of the season. Speaking of lines, Kelvin Shepherd needs a better defensive line plan. Whatever it is that is supposed to be generating the pass rush isn't working. Everybody knows it's not working. The time to pressure stats are very, very clear. The Lions are among the league's worst at getting to the quarterback. And even though Aiden Hutchinson is leading in pressures, they're taking way too damn long to happen. And as a result, the secondary is getting cooked because that's man coverage, and those guys can't stick with them dudes, any dudes, for that long. It was especially painful against Puka and the rest of the Rams when you've got Matt Stafford back there who can be surgical with it when he wants to. It's just not working up front, and they're healthy up front. This is the other thing that I've got to wonder about what's going on with Kelvin Shepherd's game plan on that defense. The defensive line is intact. It isn't like the secondary that's been besieged by injuries, and it isn't like last year where all of these guys were walking wounded. You have your starting defensive line. You've got your rotational defensive line players, and you've got your linebackers all healthy. That means you've got the horses, which leads to the plan. And whatever that is, needs work. Because the Lions aren't getting near the quarterback near often enough. They're not generating the kind of pressure that you have to make the rest of this defense work, especially with all of the injuries in the secondary. The game plan needs to be adjusted. Whatever you've got to do to turn them dudes loose, turn them dudes loose. Because right now, nothing's working. And against the Rams, that included the run defense, which up until now had been pretty solid. Another thing we learned, obvious. This is from the obvious department of obviousness. The backups aren't the starters. I know the coaches have to come out every week and say, hey, look, it's next man up. We believe in our guys. These guys are on the roster for a reason. They're our kind of guys. They're OKGs. They're gritty. They're all the things. They're not starters. And they're not starters for a reason. And in the case of the safeties, we're down to, I don't even know where we are on the depth chart anymore. It seems to change day to day. And that's obvious. These guys can't do the job. You got to change the job. You can't run the same defense. You can't run the same man schemes when you don't have the man coverage players that you need to make that happen. You're going to have to change that up as well because these guys can't do what Kirby Joseph and Brian Branch and Terrion Arnold could do. They're just not equipped to do it. So give them a job that they can do. The other thing is the thing we learned, and now it's absolutely undebatable, this team needs to do something that it hasn't done, as I mentioned, until September, and that is start a win streak. All right, it's time. You got 3 games left. Lions pretty much have to win them all. I know the math doesn't math quite exactly that way, but if the Lions want to have anything to say about a postseason berth, winning these next 3 games, pretty much essential. And finally, I'll wrap up with this, since I know it's on everybody's mind. Certainly Chris, who I did the postgame show with, who had lots to say about it. The officiating epidemic is real. It's horrible. It's every game. It is every Lions game. It's every game. Every fan base thinks they're being jobbed by the refs. Every fan base, if you go on to fill in the fan base blank Twitter, you will find people that think that the league is biased against them and that they are trying to plot to keep them out of a playoff spot or out of a Super Bowl or out of the postseason. It's because everybody's seeing the same trash officiating, the same garbage calls, the same egregious errors that are obvious even to the officiating experts at the network level. When Dean Blandino is saying that's absolutely not something you can call, and 5 seconds later the official calls it, the league has got a problem. And the credibility of the league is going to suffer, and all of the allegations of gambling and of priorities and of script writing and all of those things, that's all going to come into play, and the league is inviting it right now because the officiating is a damn disaster. Time now to get into some numbers over narratives. I will warn you, I feel like this should come with some sort of rating or some sort of parental warning. These numbers they're not good, and they're not going to make anybody happy. I mentioned this during the post-game show that I was dreading this part of my show on Tuesday when you get to pour over the numbers because, woof, boy, are they bad. We'll start with the number 69 as in percent. That was the rush success rate allowed by the Lions against the Rams. To put that into some sort of perspective, that's not only the worst of the Dan Campbell administration. That is the worst rush success rate the Lions have allowed since 2003. My daughter was born in 2008, and she's graduating high school this year. So it's been a minute since the Lions have had that kind of effort against any team in terms of rush defense. It was bad. Another number, 2.28. That's yards before contact for the aforementioned Rams running backs. They were getting downfield and had a third of a third down almost before they were even contacted. So it makes those longer gains even easier, and it gives any NFL running back a chance to get things done. To go along with that was the pass defense and the explosive play play rate. One of those. It's definitely one of those words in some sort of order. The Lions are 32nd, so 32 is the important number here. The explosive pass rate. That's what the Lions have allowed since week 12. So you're not imagining it. Yes, the DBs have been chasing receivers all over. Yes, everybody's finding ways to hit the deep ball. Yes, Aaron Rodgers is coming to Ford Field this weekend. None of that should make anybody comfortable. It's a bad pass defense to go along with a really, really bad day in rush defense. There's the number 29.5. Speaking of that pass defense, that was the PFF score for DJ Reed. I know. PFF's not the be-all, end-all. They don't know everything about everything. But that was good enough for dead last on the team. DJ Reed had a really, really rough day, like you might expect when you've got Devontae Adams for part of the game and Puka Nacua for damn near all of it, and Matt Stafford pulling the trigger on an offense that's working really, really well right now. You're probably going to have a bad day. I don't think anybody in the pass defense had a good day, but DJ Reed had a really bad day. 23rd, or 20, I guess 23 would be the number. 23rd is the Lions rank in points per game right now. The leaky defense has started to pile up statistically, and they're giving up a bunch of points. For the record, I think the average, I looked this up, I don't know if I can trust the AI on this, but the average for a Super Bowl winner is somewhere around 6. There have been some as low as 15 or 16 in the last 10 years or so, but the average is around 6th in points allowed per game, and the Lions right now are sitting at 23. So that's no good. Another number that kind of, for me, told the story of this game, and that is the number 7, and that is carries by David Montgomery. I did a long segment last week about how this offense works when David Montgomery's involved. And no, it's not just a fetish about the running back, although it seems he may have gotten the memo based on this post on Instagram. I just know what this Lions offense looks like when David Montgomery's involved, when they're using him, and when the offensive philosophy, going back to that identity question, features him and features that kind of run game. Jared Goff also does better. In the 5 best games that David Montgomery's had, Jared Goff had 5 very, very good days, and the offense is humming right along. Teams have figured out how to bottle up Jahmyr Gibbs and keep him from getting to that 3rd or 4th step when he can kick in the afterburners and go and hurt you. David Montgomery's the counterpunch to that. The philosophy behind David Montgomery is the counterpunch to that. If everybody's looking for those creases on the edges and trying to keep Ja Gibbs from doing something that puts him on SportsCenter, well, then you punch him in the face with a guy that's willing to punch him in the face over and over and over again. And they did that in the first half. He only got 6 carries, but he made 30-plus yards. Dude's getting in the end zone. He's doing good work. He vanishes at halftime. I can't explain it. It's madness. It's maddening, but it definitely played a serious role in how this game went in the second half. And then the final number, the one that actually matters, 3. That's it. That's how many games you've got left to stop the bleeding, and you probably got to win them all. It wouldn't hurt anybody's feelings if you won the next one decisively, because it is by far and away the easiest. It's at home. It's against the Steelers, because after that it's on the road to face whatever 9 is that week, because J.J. McCarthy is a little schizophrenic. One week he looks like an all-pro. The next week he looks like he belongs in the CFL. They're at home. Minnesota's never easy to beat at home. And then you've got the Bears, who are currently, and I say this for the second time this year, in first place and starting to play pretty good ball. They've got to deal with the Packers, and we'll get to that whole thing in just a little bit. But 3 games is all the Lions have left to salvage this season and get themselves to the playoffs. That brings me to a section of the show I'm going to call What Up Though? Full disclosure, growing up in Southeast Michigan in Oakland County, I didn't know that What Up Though was, I didn't know that was a Michigan thing. I thought that was just a thing that people said. It wasn't until the last handful of years that I watched these teams kind of marketing that phrase. I was like, wait a minute, is that that's just a thing? What up though? That's a Michigan. I had no idea. It's like Verner's, Coney dogs, incorrectly pronouncing Myers. I had no idea. Anyway, 5 questions that I have for the Lions with the remaining games of the season. Some of these are remedial. What's going on with the D-line? This is my question for Kelvin Shepard. What is going on with the D-line? Why can't they scheme up something, anything, I don't care what, to get after these quarterbacks when you're healthy up front, when the linebackers are all there, the blitz schemes aren't working. And I understand you've lost some pieces of that with Brian Branch. He's no longer back there. And you don't have Terrion Arnold. And okay, there's some questions in secondary. But up front, this team is as healthy as they are anywhere on the squad. And it is not getting done. The team's too talented. There's too much money invested in that D-line to be playing this badly. It should be a strength of the team, and that Rams game, they were anything but. They were a liability, and they're getting the part of the defense that is injured and is besieged by all kinds of problems, getting guys on the field. They're getting them torched. This man coverage scheme can't have quarterbacks, especially quarterbacks the quality of Matt Stafford and, yes, whatever's left of Aaron Rodgers, sitting back there for 3, 4, 5 seconds and having all day to go through their reads and progressions and find a guy that's open. So that's question number 1. Question number 2, why are we avoiding David Montgomery? Why? What has happened that Jahmyr Gibbs, uber talented, I recognize his skill set, but why is it that his offense is so eager to get away from him even when it's working? Even when you can see the positive results and the drives are resulting in points and the offense is moving the ball and the third downs are manageable, does he disappear for such long stretches of time? You got to get that guy on the field. I think he may well be a salary casualty next year, but he's on the roster this year and he's more than capable and he needs to be out there churning out yards. If anything, it's going to open the game for Jahmyr Gibbs because eventually the defense is going to adjust to number 5. And then you have a completely different guy you can throw at him, which brings me to another question that I have. Question number 3, why are they not deploying David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs at the same time? Why is that not materialized? It was widely rumored during training camp. John Morton spent a lot of time talking about it. David Montgomery corrected Kay Adams when he did his interview with her to start the season about putting those two on the field at the same time. Her intimation was, how do you guys stay so patient when only one of you can be out there at a time? And he said, no, it doesn't have to be that way. And it doesn't. Especially not when the tight end room is in ruins and you don't have as many receiving options as you would like. You can put Jahmyr Gibbs out wide. You can put him in the slot. You can move him out of the backfield. You can use all kinds of motions, and you can get more out of your offense when you have your best playmakers on the field at the same time. Not sure why the Lions are avoiding that. Another question. 4. Is Dan got too much on his plate? Has this play calling thing just tipped the balance? I asked a couple of weeks ago about what was going on with the game day communication chain, what's involved with that. I don't think enough gets made of that. It's one thing to say, like, Dan Campbell is taking over play calling. Great. Awesome. He's got the play card in his hands. But that means he's not doing things. That means there are things that are not getting done that Dan Campbell normally would have done, and you've seen some of that. Challenge on a call that you can't challenge cost the team a timeout. Some time management issues where a timeout should have been used before the 2-minute warning. There's all manner of things going on in crunch time under pressure, and this team just doesn't look together. And I can't help but think that's because of the change in the play calling and because there wasn't adequate attention paid to just exactly who's going to do all the other things that still have to be done, even though Dan Campbell is calling plays. I don't know whether this continues into next year. Nobody knows about whether or not John Morton is going to be retained or if there's going to be a new offensive coordinator or if that offensive coordinator is going to earn play calling duties. Dan Campbell's tried that twice, bringing in an offensive coordinator to call plays from the outside of the organization, and twice it is flamed out by week 8. I don't know if there's somebody in the building that is currently on the job training to be a play caller or if this is just what the Lions are going to do moving forward. But something has to change with that game day chain of command because it's just too sloppy and there are mistakes being made and there are things that are easily enough corrected, and they have to be if you're going to be that precise and on your details and enough to get to the postseason and make any noise. And then finally, does this team have any fight left? The up, down thing has finally, at least for me, I know a lot of fans that I've heard from, but it's worn me out because the same things get said after every loss. And that's easy when every loss is 4 or 5, or like last year was just 2 times. And the Lions don't have to explain that very often. They don't have to explain why they can't stay consistently up and involved in performing and executing on the field. Has it worn them out? There are some guys like Aleem McNeil, like Aiden Hutchinson, who came back this year from injury. I know Aiden's playing a ton of snaps. The offensive line obviously has been a disaster area and besieged by injuries and other things. And so you've got some attrition there that is wearing people out. Does this team have any fight left? Do they have the kind of fight that it's going to take to muster up their 3 best games right now? Because without their 3 best games, they're not going to go to the postseason, and we're going to be breaking out our mock drafts here in a couple of weeks' time. So that's the 5th question in this what up, though, state session. I just don't know how much this team has left with the guys that are playing wounded and the guys that aren't playing at all dragging down the overall roster. I want to move on to my own letter to Santa on behalf of the Lions. I'll start in the obvious place. Interior offensive line. Please, for the love of God, Santa, send some linemen in the offseason. Through the draft, through free agency, centers, guards, the whole thing. In fact, a tackle. I won't even hold you to just the interior offensive line. If you want to send a tackle, that'd be great too. The Lions need all of the offensive line reinforcements they can possibly get. It can't go on like this. Graham Glasgow can't be the plan at center. Taylor Decker's days are numbered, and there are depth issues throughout. They've got to get the pipeline started. So please send some interior linemen. Mentioned this a couple of times already, but if you wouldn't be too busy, if you're not too busy, send an elf, send something to fix the defensive scheme. It's not just about the defensive line. We've been over that. The defensive line has got to find a way to generate more pressure, especially when they're this healthy, especially when the linebackers behind them are also healthy. But the man scheme that they run in coverage 2 years running has been exposed. What happens when your first line guys go down? You can't run that scheme anymore. Man coverage is too hard at this level in the National Football League. It takes too much physical talent and too many repetitions. So there's got to be a plan or a scheme or a set of schemes or fallback scheme or a plan B scheme that isn't quite so talent dependent. And the defensive coaches with Kelvin Shepard at the helm have got to get in there and make those changes. Not only for the next 3 games, but for the rest of the offseason and moving into 2026. Speaking of moving into 2026, another item on my letter to Santa. Pay the coaches. Would you please send them some money so there isn't the attrition that the Lions have seen, especially last year. Now, losing the coordinators was one thing. The fact that they were able to lure so many other guys away, that's not great. Your overall continuity took a hit. I think a lot of people predicted that. I had hoped, with my fingers and eyes and toes crossed, that it wouldn't be as big of a deal as it's turned out to be. But pay your coaches. That keeps them around. That tells everybody what you're about as an organization, and that will help move this whole thing along. Speaking of paying, let's all take a breath before we sign our next contract extension, shall we? It is a bummer for Brian Branch and Sam Laporta that they got injured when they did, because obviously both of those guys were expected to be coming up on big paydays. The Lions have paid out a bunch of big extensions to some of their foundational pieces, which is how you want to build your organization, and I understand that. But some flexibility might not be the worst thing. The Kirby Joseph situation is completely unresolved and probably will be headed into the offseason with no real way to know exactly what's going to happen there. And the Lions are listed currently, according to Spot Track, as 24th in the league in cap space for 2026 with right around $14 million. That's not a lot of wiggle room. And those extensions are all going to start to come due, including the big ones, the ones for Panay, the ones for Aiden Hutchinson, the ones for Jared Goff. Those are big numbers. So maybe we all just take a breath. I'm not saying don't sign them. I'm just saying there might be some strategery needed before the Lions go crazy and start handing out money the way they did. It was very Oprah Winfrey, where you get an extension and you get an extension and you get an extension there last year in the offseason. And it's fun. It's fun. It's great to see these guys rewarded. It's great to see Brad Holmes drafting well and turning this roster into a bunch of perennial Pro Bowlers and all pros. That's great. But there's only so much money and there is a cap, and the Lions are going to be up against it. And as they found out 2 years in a row, some free agent money and some flexibility probably go a long way in addressing injury issues, which seem to be unavoidable. I don't know that you're going to have another year like the last two, but you might. And if you do, you got to be able to sign some guys to fix that. Speaking of which, another item on my letter to Santa on behalf of the Lions: no more injury cases in the second round of the draft. I agree with Brad Holmes that it is impossible to find a football player at the high college level that doesn't have an injury. Obviously, they all do. But injury histories, and especially certain injuries, big guys with back problems, those are probably to be avoided. It took me a minute to double and triple and quadruple check this, but the Lions only currently have one second-round player on their active roster, and it's a rookie. It's Tate Ratledge, because Levi Onwuzurike isn't on the active roster, and Josh Pascal isn't on the active roster, and Ennis Rakestraw is not on the active roster. And I'm giving you a mulligan on Laporta and Branch. Neither one of those are due to an injury history, but they are both hurt. That's 5 dudes that all were meant to play a major role. When you're a second-round draft pick, you should have a role in anybody's locker room, let alone some of those early picks, which were high picks. It's not the same as it's been the last couple of years where the Lions have been good and the later round draft picks are sometimes be a little less relevant. But man, oh man, that's a lot of talent to not have on game day, and some of those are avoidable because there are some of those guys that had injury flags in college, and maybe, just maybe not in the second round. They can't be avoided forever. Maybe not in the second round. All right? So that's it. That's all I need, Santa. I just need a few things. Just make it happen, please.
Ho, ho.
And I will wrap things up with an updated look at the enemies list. Most of these are pretty obvious. We'll start with Aaron Rodgers. I don't know what to say. F this guy. I just, all those years with the pack and all the years with the championship belt, and now there's the hand on the hip, like Magellan thing where he's pointing for the tush push that he's not involved in, to the squabbling about his new helmet that he was forced to wear because he was wearing a helmet that's 20 years old, to the darkness retreats, to the Joe Rogan podcast, to the thing and the thing and the thing. Just to hell with Aaron Rodgers. Can we get one last win against this guy, please? Pretty please. Kirby's not in this game. I'm not terribly confident the way the secondary's playing, which leads me to his accomplice, DK Metcalf, also making the enemies list. DJ Reed was the lowest rated player according to PFF last week. Now, granted, that's the Rams, and that's a whole different bag of cats offensively than the Pittsburgh Steelers are. But DK Metcalf, I checked this out, and I wrote it down. His last 4 chances against the Lions, he went 7 for 104, 6 for 75, 7 for 149, and 6 for 63. So he's had good days against Detroit. A lot of those games were in Detroit. He's not going to be afraid of Ford Field. Aaron Rodgers isn't going to be afraid of Ford Field. Those two could get together and have a really big day, and I would rather they didn't. Also making the enemies list, TJ Watt. I got nothing against the Watt family. I think they're pretty awesome. JJ Watt's even good in the booth, and I wouldn't have guessed that during his playing days. would love to have TJ Watt on my team. I think anybody would like to have TJ Watt on my team. But the way this offensive line is playing and the way that they misfired against the Rams and some of the things that they put on tape that the Steelers can definitely exploit, not just with TJ Watt, but with Hayward too. TJ Watt, if he's in, and as of this recording, he has not been ruled out, he is a game wrecker. He's a game wrecker on the best of days. He's a game wrecker when the Lions have an all-pro center. He's a game wrecker 7 days a week, 365. That dude can ruin your day, and they are going to have to protect Jared Goff at all costs, and that means keeping him away from TJ Watt. Also making the enemies list, pressure. It makes diamonds. It also crushes little mini subs full of billionaires on their way to look at the Titanic. It can be devastating. And the Lions have got all the pressure in the world on them now. Going back to, do they have what it takes to tough this out? It's all about the pressure they're under at this point because they got to win 3 games in a row, and it's got to start with this one. It's their last chance to win at home. And so let's see if they can handle it because there is no guarantee that there's a tomorrow if they trip and stumble as they have a couple of times against the Steelers. Now, the good news is the win-loss thing indicates that this would be a win. So maybe do that. Take your first step towards a 3-game win streak to end the season and get yourself into the playoffs. And then finally, the NFL scriptwriters. Not just for the shenanigans with the referees and whatever's going on with officiating this year, because it is frickin' terrible, but also for making Lions fans, in a year like this where everything's on the line and nothing's gone according to plan, making us hate watch the Packers and the Bears twice in 3 weeks when it really legitimately matters to us, and forcing Lions fans to hope the Packers win. It's cruel. It's wrong. It feels gross. I don't even like to say it. It's icky. So to hell with the NFL scriptwriters and what they have done with the last month of this season, because it sucks. It sucks that the Lions are in the position they're in, but at least they had a hand in that. They had no hand in writing the schedule, and the fact that twice in less than a month, Lions fans are going to have to cross their fingers and hope that friggin' Packers win. That ain't right. It's just not right. All right, that's going to do it for me. The obligatory plea to just once this year wear the damn silver pants with the blue uniform. Just one time, Lions. Could you wear your real uniform, the actual uniform, not the all blues, not the all whites, not the all blacks, not the throwbacks. Just that's neither here nor there. I'm not going to get into this silver pants thing. I got made fun of a lot when I made a big deal out of that before, but silver pants, and just as a quick aside. Once again, subscribe to the channel. Tons of content coming on the DLP every single day now. Now there's an editor. There's a managing. I don't know what he's managing because I didn't know we had writers. But, they keep me kind of mushroomed up in the dark and covered and you know what. So that's it for me, man. Be a part of things. Please subscribe, and I'll see you next week.